who knows if I had decided to stay if I hadn't been here. I had a really wonderful time and decided to stay a second year after KCJS, and so it only became natural that I would come back to Japan after I graduated, started working, and 21 years later I am still here. So I would say KCJS must have had something pretty large to do with that.
KCJS brought me to Japan, which is the big thing. I'm very, very grateful for that. Studying Japanese is one thing in the States, but actually doing it here in Japan, meeting with Japanese people on a daily basis, living in a Japanese household, living in Kyoto in general. I mean, you can study anywhere in Japan, but if you live in Kyoto for 4 to 8 months, then you experience Japan in a way that you're not going to experience it anywhere else. So.
You couldn't get much better of a location than we had. Every now and then we'd hear the animals at the zoo next door, but besides that, it was just amazing. And right near the Heian Shrine, it was just wonderful, and it really made for a nice community. We had our own building, own classrooms.
The smell from the zoo that wafted over was very memorable, but I gotta say that I love that area. I mean, it's just very peaceful. I mean, of course, Kyoto is as a whole.
I don't recall who came up with this, but we were the zoo next to the zoo. The location I thought was great. First of all, the facilities were superb.
I have memories of, I mean, of course, like I said, the walk from my homestay to school was just beautiful. I'd walk past Shoden and places like that. And being so near Heian Jingu and being able to walk up to Kyodai from the Tetsugaku no Michi. So yes, I have many happy memories of the location.
Well, every time I go to Kyoto, I always go to Nanzenji, and I always walk by the school because it's like the best location any school has ever been in.
独立しているっていう点では、その岡崎っていうのは良かったですね。で、場所もね、割と平安神宮近いところにあるし、いいと思ったんです。でも兄弟もここ同志社も学生さん、大学の中なので学生さんがいるので、もしかしてそのアメリカの学生さんにとって日本の学生さんの姿を見ることができるし、交流しようと思えば、友達になろうと思えば何らかの形で、できるかなと思うので、今は私はここ非常にいいと思います。
Yeah, the Kyodai Kaikan, I have no particularly like warm fuzzy memories of it, but nor do I think it was like a bad place. But I liked being in Kyodai. I met some really cool people there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've never had a lot of culture shock in Japan. It's more just excitement and surprise. Sure. And so I've been fortunate. I've just before coming to Japan, I'd always read about how Japan's so different and all these different things. When I got there, I really realized that we're all the same human beings. We have different cultures, but especially going into Japan and the younger generation, all with the same kind of dreams and aspirations, and it was pretty refreshing, actually.
I think what happened was about halfway through it, you just sort of throw up your hands and say, it's so different that culture shock doesn't even really get you there. You've got to just accept it for what it is and deal with it, or else you go crazy.
You go to when you go to Akihabara and you go to one of these maid bars, what's up with that? Like, why do you have Victorian era maids coming and serving you tea? Why is that happening here? And I mean, there's so many curious things that are going on that people are interested in. I mean, it just seems like there's been a big shift in terms of people's interest in Japan and why they come to study here. 20 years ago, I think the focus of attention was on Japan as a business, the juggernaut of Japan Incorporated, and it was taking over America, and a lot of the interest was more focused on the business side. People are still coming to Japan, but I think a larger number of those people are more interested and influenced by either art, and included in art would be manga, of course, and animation.
学生が日本語を勉強し始める理由、 最初期の頃やっぱり日本文化とかそういうものに興味があると、一時期すごく日本のアニメに興味があるから勉強を始めた学生がいて、最近はまたそのアニメで勉強し始めたという学生がちょっとまた少なくなっているというか、アニメに興味ある学生が前よりも少なくなってきてる。これもなんか面白いなと思いますね。だから前の以前の一番最初の頃になんか戻ってる感じが、しますね。
もう子供の時からアメリカの生活の中にもう日本があったっていうような環境で育ってきている人たちなんですね。ですからもうすでに日本語もなんかこう身に備わっていると言いますか。
Just think of the technological changes over these last 20 years. When I arrived at KCJS, there was no student email. The office had some email. We were able to get one single account for all the students who used it very conscientiously with the subject on the incoming emails being the student's name. And so it was kind of honor code not to open someone else's email. And after that, we were eventually able to develop a much better system. But initially, the steps and hallways were filled with wiring the network and the like.
Communicating with home was like a long distance phone call, maybe once a month if we were lucky. We didn't do email. I remember once I tried to fax my dad because he was supposed to be coming to Japan on a business trip, and it was a nightmare. We didn't even write things on the computer. Like, we'd write our English papers on the computer. They had like little Macs, I think. They had a computer lab with Macs. But I certainly didn't know how to type Japanese, and so everything was tegaki.
I lived in this hospital. It was a very old hospital. It was an old facility, and there was a payphone. You didn't have your own line. There was a little payphone, and you know, we'd put the 10 yen coins in, and so it would just put enough coins in to call back to my parents and have them call back to that line. And I remember, you know, discussing important events in our family that happened in the freezing cold, and because there's no insulation in the place, and it's in the hallway, and at that little payphone.
やっぱり10年前と今は、まあ、どのご家庭も多分そうだと思いますけど、パソコン、コンピューターが入りましたね。だから昔だったらもうそんな自分の部屋に閉じこもるということはなかったですね。今はやっぱりもう本当に帰ったらまずアメリカの家族とIP フォンでコンピューターで話したり、恋人友達ととにかく自分の部屋でアメリカの世界の今こう日本に来ててもアメリカにいると同じように、まあ時差はありますけど毎日両親と話したりできますね。 IP フォンでカメラに向かって。それは10年前では考えられなかったことで、なんかとても10年前の子だったら、女の子だったらもう寂しくてホームシックになって週に1回のウィークエンドの両親からの電話を待っているそんな時もあったから、今は全然それはない。
Two of the most rewarding things have to do with relations with students and with staff and faculty. You know, the students are very bright, but they're also very committed, and they become engaged in you know, what we're trying to do here, and so I think that there's really a great fit there. And for a faculty member, it's really a job, you know, worth doing, and there's a sense that the students appreciate it, and as alumni, they're very loyal to the program.
初めの頃の学生というのはすごく日本語の授業に対してプログラムに対しても文句を言うんだよね。でも文句を言うんだけど納得したらすごくその時以上にそれまで以上に勉強するっていうすごくバイタリティのある学生が多かったような感じがするんだ。